Most people spend their lives chasing income. They wake up in the morning thinking about how to earn more, how to squeeze another dollar out of the day, how to rush toward what they think is success. They focus on income as if it were the starting point. But the truth is, income is not the beginning, it's the end. It's not the cause, it's the effect. You see, income is the result, not the root. You don't walk into a garden and shout at the fruit to grow. That's not how nature works. You plant, you water, you tend the soil, you guard against pests, and then the fruit shows up, after the roots have done their job. The world teaches you to shout at the fruit, to demand the outcome without tending to the process. That's why most people stay frustrated. They're watering the wrong thing. They're yelling at the tree instead of nurturing the soil beneath it. When someone says they want to double their income, I say, good. Now double your value. Because income doesn't just show up because you want it. It shows up because you've become someone worth more in the marketplace. That means developing better skills, improving your attitude, understanding people, solving problems, working with consistency. These are roots, and the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. The stronger the tree, the more it can bear fruit. The problem with focusing only on income is that it causes impatience. It puts your eyes on the scoreboard instead of the play. It gets you so wrapped up in the numbers that you forget the practice. You start looking for shortcuts. You cut corners. You compromise your values. And that's how people collapse. Because if the fruit shows up and the roots are weak, the tree falls with the first strong wind. Real success is built underground where nobody sees it. It's in your disciplines, your decisions, your mornings, your nights, your thinking, your reading, your habits. That's where success begins. And that's the part no one applauds, the part nobody cheers. But that's the part that builds the life. It's the part that determines the outcome. You don't see the roots, but the roots carry the entire tree. People often say, but I work so hard. Yes, but the question is, what are you working on? A man digging with a spoon may be sweating more than the man driving the excavator, but that doesn't mean he's producing more. Work doesn't guarantee reward, valuable work does. Productive thinking does. Disciplined actions do. And all of that begins underground in the root system. So if income is the result, then the smarter strategy is to forget about chasing it and instead focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts it. That's a different mindset altogether. It means instead of waking up and asking, how do I make more money? You start asking, how do I increase my value? How do I serve better? How do I improve my character, my knowledge, my discipline, my delivery? Because the market doesn't pay you for showing up. It pays you for showing up with something worth paying for. This also means income is not the goal. It's the signal. It tells you whether the marketplace thinks you're doing well. And if the signal isn't strong, if the income isn't flowing, the answer isn't to complain or panic. The answer is to return to the root. To ask, what am I missing? What do I need to develop? What seed needs more water? What habit needs replacing? Because until you grow, the income won't. You have to outgrow your current self to outgrow your current income. Now, don't get this wrong, there's nothing evil or shameful about wanting more income. Wanting more is good, but it's dangerous when it becomes the only focus. If all you think about is income, you begin to ignore the things that actually produce it. You start choosing quick rewards over long-term growth. You trade depth for appearance, and that's where people get stuck. They grow frustrated because they think something is wrong with the outcome, when in reality, The outcome is working perfectly, it's just reflecting who they are. It's like trying to change the reflection in the mirror without changing your face. You can tap on the mirror. You can yell at it, you can even break it. But until you change what the mirror reflects, nothing will improve. The mirror is the income. You are the image. Change the image, and the mirror has no choice but to follow. But try to change the mirror without touching yourself, and you'll just stay stuck angry, confused, broke, and tired. So the real secret isn't to demand more income. It's to become more, to think more clearly, act more intentionally, live more purposefully, to water the roots, not the fruit, because once the roots are healthy, the fruit comes automatically. That's the law. It's how nature works. It's how life works. It's how success works. It's a mistake to think the world owes you something just because you showed up. You can walk into the office, punch the clock, sit at your desk, and expect the paycheck to follow. And yes, maybe it will for a while, but the real question is not whether you're getting paid. The question is whether you're being paid what you're worth. That's where most people go wrong. They confuse time spent with value delivered. But time isn't the currency the world respects. The world pays for value, and until you increase your value, your income won't increase. You don't get rich by the hour. You get rich by becoming someone who can solve bigger problems, take on more responsibility, make better decisions, deliver higher quality results. The person who learns how to think, how to communicate, how to lead, how to sell, how to innovate, that person earns more. Not because the clock gave them permission, but because they gave the marketplace something it couldn't ignore. That's the key. Become someone the market notices, someone who brings so much value that your absence would be a problem. Think of the difference between a minimum wage job and a high-earning profession. It's not about the number of hours worked. In many cases, they're working the same or even more hours. The difference lies in the skills, the perspective, and the level of impact. Someone who works at a fast food counter is doing honest work, but the work doesn't carry the same value in the marketplace as someone managing a business or building software or leading a team. It's not about human worth, it's about market value, and that value is something you can increase if you're willing to grow. The truth is, you're not stuck with your current value. It's not permanent, it's not fixed. You're not stamped at birth with a $sign on your forehead. You can increase your value with the right habits, with the right mindset, with the right focus. You can study an hour a day instead of watching television. You can read books instead of scrolling your phone. You can take a course, find a mentor, learn from your mistakes. You can ask better questions, take more responsibility, improve your discipline. These things raise your value, not just in the eyes of the world, but in your own eyes. The problem is, most people are more interested in entertainment than education. They'd rather feel good now than be good later. They're more committed to comfort than to growth. So they stay where they are, earning what they earn, blaming the system, blaming the boss, blaming the economy. But here's the harsh truth. The marketplace doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't pay based on how hard your life is. It pays based on what you bring to the table. That's not cruel. That's just how it works. It's not personal, it's principle. When you increase your value, you increase your leverage. You create options. You become harder to replace. And that's when everything starts to shift. Suddenly, you're not begging for opportunity. Opportunity starts looking for you. You're not chasing jobs, you're attracting offers. You're not just hoping someone will give you a raise. You're becoming someone they can't afford to lose. That's the shift. That's the power of becoming valuable. You've got to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an asset. Ask yourself every day, am I worth more this month than I was last month? If the answer is no, you're losing ground. Because while you're staying the same, the world is moving forward. Technology is changing. Industries are shifting. Competition is growing. If you're not improving, you're falling behind. The only security you really have is your ability to adapt, to evolve, to level up. And that all comes down to value. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming useful. It's about solving problems. It's about developing the kind of mindset that looks for ways to contribute more, to serve more, to produce more. Because when you bring more value, you earn more value. And value doesn't just come in the form of money. It shows up in relationships, in influence, in confidence, in impact. The person who brings value becomes magnetic, indispensable, trusted, respected. And those qualities are far more powerful than a resume or a title or a degree. There's a reason some people can walk into a room and command attention. They've earned it. They've paid the price of growth, of sacrifice, of development, and the market sees it. People feel it. That kind of value can't be faked. You can't cut your way to influence. You have to build it from the inside out. Layer by layer, lesson by lesson, one decision at a time. So the question isn't, how do I get more money? The question is, how do I become more valuable? Because the moment you shift your focus to that question, you unlock a new way of thinking. You start measuring your days differently. You stop wasting time and start investing it. You stop complaining and start creating. You stop waiting for the world to give you something and start becoming someone the world is willing to reward. A job is important. It puts food on the table. It pays the bills. It teaches discipline, structure, responsibility. But here's the distinction most people never make. Your job earns you a living, but working on yourself earns you a fortune. That's where the separation begins. That's the fork in the road where average people stay stuck and extraordinary people rise. Because most folks spend all their energy making a living and almost none making a life. They wake up, rush to work, give the best hours of their day to someone else's vision, and when the day is over, they go home too tired to invest even a little energy into themselves. Your future isn't built during your 9 to 5. It's built before and after. It's built in the early mornings, the late evenings, the weekends, in the quiet hours when no one's watching. That's where you forge character. That's where you develop wisdom. That's where you sharpen your skills, adjust your thinking, and increase your value. The job gives you a paycheck, but your personal growth, that gives you freedom. The world is full of people who are overworked and underdeveloped. They grind all day but never grow. They sweat but never stretch. They put in effort but not in themselves. And then they wonder why nothing changes year after year. The answer is simple. You can't get a better life by only improving your income. You get a better life by improving you, because you carry your habits, your mindset, your attitude, your decisions everywhere you go. Whether you switch jobs or move cities or start a new business, you go with you. So if you don't change, nothing else really will. Now, when someone hears work on yourself, they often think it's about confidence or maybe self-esteem. That's part of it, sure, but it's much deeper than that. It's about becoming a person of substance. It means becoming the kind of individual who has clarity, consistency, and the ability to execute. It means developing mental toughness, emotional discipline, communication skills, leadership instincts. It's about becoming someone who doesn't just respond to life, but who creates life. That's real self-work. Working on yourself is inconvenient. It requires effort without immediate applause. You read the books, but no one notices. You wake up early, but no one cares. You say no to distractions, but it feels like sacrifice. But over time, these investments compound. And when they do, the world starts to notice. People start to ask, what's different about you? And the answer is everything, because you've been upgrading from the inside out. Some people treat their job like it's the ceiling of their life. They think, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is all I'll be paid. But that's backwards thinking. The job is not the ceiling. It's the floor. It's where you start from. It's what pays you while you become more. If you just keep working the job, your income will follow the curve of inflation. But if you start working on yourself, reading, studying, learning new skills, building side income, expanding your understanding, then your income won't be limited by the job anymore. It will be limited only by your growth. There's a reason why two people can work the same job, in the same company, for the same hours, and still have completely different futures. One goes home and watches television. The other goes home and studies marketing. One complains about not being promoted. The other becomes so skilled they can't be ignored. It's not about luck. It's about focus. The people who grow themselves eventually outgrow their situation. That's the natural result of self-investment. So many want the reward but won't pay the price. They want the raise but not the reading. They want success but not the study. They want progress but not the process. But life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you deserve. And what you deserve depends on how much you've become. Not how long you've waited, not how hard you've wished, but how diligently you've worked on the one thing you can truly control. You can lose your job, the economy can shift, technology can replace you, but if you've worked on yourself, none of that is the end. Because you're not just a title or a task, you're a person of value, and value always finds a way back into the marketplace. That's the protection personal growth offers. It's a safety net stronger than any job security. It's an income stream that begins within. So if your job requires 8 hours, give it. Be responsible. Be excellent. Show up fully. But when those 8 hours are done, don't waste the rest. Use it to read, to plan, to build, to train, to grow. Because while the job gives you stability, your personal development gives you options. And options, over time, lead to freedom. The problem with most people is not that they don't want money. It's that they're chasing it. And the more they chase it, the more it runs. You see it all the time. People sprinting from one opportunity to the next, jumping into every quick scheme, hoping this will be the one that finally delivers the dream. They think if they move faster, talk louder, or work longer, the money will eventually give in. But money doesn't work that way. Wealth is not a wild animal you trap. It's a reward you attract. And the magnet isn't your hustle, it's your growth. Money responds to value, and value comes from who you become. Not from what you demand, not from how bad you want it, not from the hours you put in, but from the quality of the person you are becoming. You don't need to chase money when you become someone who naturally earns it. The world pays people who solve problems. The world rewards people who are consistent, skilled, responsible, dependable, clear, and trustworthy. These are traits that don't show up overnight. They are earned, refined, and multiplied through personal development. When you chase money, your decisions become reactive. You start doing things out of desperation. You say yes to things that don't align with your values. You stretch yourself thin. You confuse movement with progress. You start thinking fast money is smart money, and that's when you get caught in cycles, burnout, debt, disappointment. Chasing is exhausting. It wears you down. It strips you of creativity and peace of mind. And worst of all, it puts your power in someone else's hands. When you're chasing money, you're letting money lead you. But when you attract it, you're the one setting the terms. Attracting money isn't about passivity. It's not about sitting around hoping the universe will send you riches. No, it's about building yourself into someone who doesn't have to chase. It's about developing a reputation. It's about becoming rare in a world full of average. You attract money by becoming so useful, so good, so reliable, that people come looking for you. Think about it. The best doctors aren't out knocking on doors. The best entrepreneurs don't have to beg for customers. The best leaders don't have to demand attention. They attract it because of the weight they carry, the weight of skill, of wisdom, of integrity. Most people spend more time looking for money than looking inward. They analyze the economy, the trends, the news, the competitors. But they never analyze themselves. They never stop to ask, am I someone the market needs? Am I solving problems at a high level? Am I worth what I'm asking for? Because if the answer is no, then the strategy isn't to chase more. It's to become more reliable, more informed, more disciplined, more focused, more aware. Money is not hiding. It's circulating. It's always looking for a home, looking for someone to trust. And the way to make it trust you is to earn that trust through your growth. People trust people who grow. Employers, clients, investors, they trust individuals who are stable, consistent, and always learning. That kind of trust doesn't come from a fancy resume or a smooth pitch. It comes from the depth of your character. And character is not built in a rush. It's built slowly, through small choices repeated daily. Now this might sound too simple for some. Just become better, they'll say, that's it. But don't confuse simple with easy. Becoming better takes effort. It takes time, sacrifice, delayed gratification. It takes saying no to distraction, saying yes to discipline. It means doing the work when no one's clapping. It means staying committed when there's no visible reward. But eventually, that work becomes your reputation. That work builds your name. And when your name is strong, money starts to find its way to you. There's a difference between being busy and being valuable. You can be busy every hour of the day and still be broke. You can make 100 calls, send 1,000 messages, take every offer, and still be empty-handed. Because busyness doesn't pay, value does. The key is to shift your focus from activity to ability, from noise to depth. Instead of asking, what can I do to get paid? Start asking, what can I become that makes people want to pay me? That shift takes you from hustler to leader, from beggar to builder. When you become a person of value, your presence has weight. You walk into a room and people notice. You speak and people listen. You work and things move. That's the power of attraction. It's quiet but undeniable. You no longer need to advertise your worth. It shows. And that's when money flows to you. Not because you're chasing it, but because you've become someone it recognizes, respects, and rewards. There's a trap that most people fall into early in their careers, and sadly, many never escape it. They measure their success by how much they're earning. They think the number in the bank account is the only scorecard that matters, so they pursue money with intensity, even obsession. And along the way, they stop asking the more important question, who am I becoming? Because in the end, it's not what you earn that defines you. It's the person you become in the process of earning it. You can make $1 million and still be small on the inside. You can close deals, build businesses, hit targets, and still carry weak character, poor habits, and a shallow view of life. That's not winning. That's trading the inside for the outside. That's building the frame of a house with no foundation. Eventually, it collapses. And when it does, no amount of income can save what was never solid to begin with. The real game of success is internal. It's invisible at first. It's in the thoughts you think, the values you build, the integrity you uphold when nobody is watching. That's the soil out of which everything else grows. If you ignore that and focus only on what shows up in your wallet, you'll eventually find yourself wealthy and empty, paid but unfulfilled, successful in numbers but bankrupt in meaning. Because money is a poor substitute for purpose. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting more income. In fact, it's wise. It gives you options. It gives you freedom. It allows you to contribute. But the danger comes when you focus only on what you're getting instead of what you're becoming. When you obsess over income, you can be tempted to cut corners, to sacrifice your health, your peace of mind, your relationships, your ethics. You start chasing results faster than you're building roots. You speed up the earnings, but you slow down the growth. But what if, instead of asking, how much am I making, you started asking, what kind of person am I becoming through this process? That single shift in focus would change everything. Because it forces you to confront your habits, your disciplines, your standards. It forces you to look inward and take responsibility for the direction of your character. And that kind of focus produces the kind of success that lasts. Character doesn't show up on a paycheck, but it shows up in your decisions. It shows up in how you treat people when you don't need them. It shows up in how you react under pressure. It shows up in whether you stay disciplined when the cameras are off, and whether you do what's right when it costs you something. These traits don't just affect your personal life, they shape your professional future. Because in the long run, people trust and reward those who have depth, not just drive. The person you're becoming is your real resume. You can print a list of experiences, job titles, and accomplishments, but who you are as a person always reveals itself. And it either opens doors or quietly closes them. People want to work with those who are dependable, clear, emotionally mature, and consistent. These aren't qualities that come from chasing income. They come from intentional growth. If you become the kind of person who can handle more, then more will eventually find its way to you. That's the principle most overlook. They want more success without becoming more capable. They want the prize without going through the process. But success without personal development is dangerous. It gives people more power than they know how to handle, more options than they have the maturity to manage. That's why people rise fast and fall faster, because they became successful before they became strong. The stronger you become, the more stable your success. And strength doesn't come from money. It comes from overcoming laziness, from mastering your emotions, from setting high standards and refusing to compromise. It comes from waking up early when you don't feel like it, from showing up prepared when others are winging it, from staying focused when distractions try to steal your attention. These are the practices that shape who you are, and who you are determines how far you go. You can be rich and still be impatient. You can be wealthy and still be arrogant. You can be paid and still be full of fear, insecurity, doubt, and inconsistency. But if you grow into a person of wisdom, balance, strength, and clarity, then you not only earn success, you sustain it. You build something that lasts. You create a life that's not just impressive on the outside, but peaceful on the inside. When you focus on who you're becoming, every moment becomes meaningful. Even the hard days, the slow months, the setbacks, they all become part of the refining process. They stop being things you try to avoid and start being lessons you embrace. Because you understand that it's not about getting there quickly, it's about becoming the kind of person who can stay there when you arrive. And that kind of person doesn't just get success, they deserve it.